Well, good morning, everybody, and I know you're already laughing. It's Larry Jacobs. I have an incredibly scratchy throat this morning, but I wanted to get this show done because I got great guests for you today. So welcome to Pre-K-12 Education Talk Radio with a host with a scratchy voice, Larry Jacobs. That's me today. And this is a wonderful show, and it's an important show because I've got good friends from Hazel Health, and you can learn more about them at hazel.co. All right, and that's Dr. Travis Gayles. Travis has been with us before, the good doctor. He's the Chief Health Officer at Hazel Health, which is a company that provides health services and therapy services to schools, and it's a wonderful company. And Dr. Gayles, why did I say that? Travis, let me just say his first name. Travis has previously served as a health officer and chief of public health services for Montgomery County, Maryland, where he oversaw the county health system, including the county school-based health program. And also, I'm very excited to meet her. We have Phyllis Jordan. Phyllis is the Associate Director of Future Ed. I want to learn more about this, a think tank at Georgetown University's McCourt School of Public Policy. And she is an expert on student absenteeism. And we're going to talk about the youth mental health crisis and how it affects education. And boy, these are two experts, so I wanted to make sure we did this show today. Today is November 22nd, 2022, incredibly the 59th anniversary of the Kennedy assassination. I was thinking about that this morning, all right? And what a day that was, okay? And a long, long time ago, my friends, okay? And it's an important date in American history. I want everybody to at least remember that. And also, it's 2 days before Thanksgiving, 2022, and I was looking at it. There's a famine in Somalia. There's a war in Ukraine. You can go on and on and on. And we're going to have Thanksgiving here in America. And I just want to make sure everybody understands how important it is to give thanks for all the things we have here today. Okay? Sometimes we worry about high gas prices and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, we really have it good. And let's just remember that. So please, I want you to go over to ace-ed.org. That's our home website. We got our new magazine, new issue of the magazine, Equity and Access, over there. Please go over, check it out. We have our Equity Awards over there. All right, you can see all the wonderful educators and companies that won the awards for this year. We're going to do it again next year. seltoday.org is over there. It will link, okay, teacherretention.com. And, of course, all the podcasts are over there at ace-ed.org. The new issue of the magazine is excellent. I hope you click through on the cover and check it all out. So without further ado, let me bring on my wonderful guests, if I may. Okay, and I'm going to start, although normally it's ladies first. I'm just going to say good morning, Dr. Travis Gayles. How are you?
Good morning, Larry. I'm doing well, and I hope you will be feeling better soon so you can enjoy your holiday.
Well, actually, if you want, you're a doctor, so you can diagnose me, and I'll just bring Phyllis on a little later. Okay.
I prescribe lots of rest.
And orange juice, and, of course, you'll send me some chicken soup, and we'll be just fine. Travis, it's great to have you here again. And
thanks
for
being
here.
Me.
Phyllis, I don't usually sound like this, but welcome to the show.
Hi, Larry. I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, me too. And Jeff, so you're Associate Director of Future Ed. I want to learn more about that. The think tank at Georgetown University, and I found this fascinating, McCourt School of Public Policy. Not about education, but about public policy. You're an expert on absentee trends. So you wrote something called the Attendance Playbook. And Phyllis, just introduce yourself. What Future Ed does, etc. Before we get into all this other stuff.
So Future Ed is a think tank that focuses on the future of education, which gives us a really broad swath of issues we can look at. I have some background in education policy and particularly absenteeism, so I've been writing a lot about that. But more recently, our focus has been on the pandemic and what's happening to students during the pandemic, including absenteeism, but also including mental health, academics. We've done an analysis of 5,000 local spending plans of how they're going to spend their COVID relief money, so we have a sense of how districts are responding to this once-in-a-lifetime crisis.
It is, I hope, from your lips to the good Lord's ears, I hope it's a once-in-a-lifetime crisis.
Well, I was just going to say, yes, I hope
Yeah.
we don't ever see anything like this again.
Yeah, we could keep talking about the 500-year flood, and then another one happens the next week. So it's always scary. Since you're future ed, talking about the future of education, okay, knowing what you know, okay, and knowing what's going on out there, what just real quick since the Travis is here, he's a doctor. Okay, Phyllis, what's your prognosis for education, thinking about the future of education in America, if I may?
Well, I think this is an all-hands-on-deck moment where everybody needs to focus on this. And it's not just academics, but academics are key, but also students are not going to learn and improve if they're not mentally healthy. And nothing's going to happen if they don't attend school. So, and it takes families, and it takes communities, and it takes governments, and it takes teachers and students. But we've got to recognize the crisis we're in and focus our attention on it.
Yeah, we really do. I mean, it's really bad out there. And we're talking about, the social emotional health. And by the way, according to the State Ed Tech Directors Association, I'm sure you probably know this, okay, their research shows that school districts are using their dollars, okay, for social emotional learning, which is such a huge concern. We're going to talk about youth mental health crisis, all part and parcel. And I have to say something. The teachers are, since we're in education talk radio, the teachers are under incredible mental health stress. And I was talking to one of the teachers here in the small district that I live in here in Maine, and he was saying that last Friday at the high school, 10 teachers happened to be sick. There's COVID going around and some stuff around here, etc. Well, 10 teachers out of 34 teachers, or 44, whatever the hell the heck. Okay, it's absolutely unbelievable. Okay, and they wound up with kids, 5 classes sitting in the lunchroom all day. Okay, and they tried to shift people in to take care of them. And we're a small school district up here. It's called Sacapee Valley. Okay, but that's the same stress so many school districts are facing. And this teacher I was talking to was, he's just so tired of this. He can't even teach his classes anymore. He's just so upset all the time. Okay, we're trying to keep up with this. So it's brutal. Go ahead, Phil. Then we'll get into this. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I was going to add that, you have a lot of educators saying, or a lot of pundits saying, we need to give kids more time on tasks, like longer school days and work on the weekends, and work over the summer. But the reality is that teachers are worn out, and so are students. So that's a challenge we've got.
Yeah, I know how to fix it. You pay teachers $150,000 a year to make it a 12-month job, and like everybody else, okay, they get paid for the great job they do, but it ain't happening. But we'll talk about that. Travis, what's your thoughts about what's going on in the schools today? And again, you have, not only are you the chief health officer of Hazel Health, okay, but you're also, you have this great experience out of Maryland, okay, in Montgomery County, huge district.
Yeah, well, and hearing what Phyllis mentioned, this notion of, when folks are talking about extending school days and doing Saturday weekend learning, things like that, I would offer a different solution. How about we work hard to make sure that we give children and teachers, adults as well, the resources to be able to cope with what they experience outside of school, to ensure that those issues and barriers that are giving them anxiety or causing them trouble in their home lives, if we had a system that worked to identify those issues, provide students and teachers with the skills, the coping skills and mechanisms to identify those and work through those, so that when they enter into the school, they can be fully present to learn and to grasp the concepts and to be present and to, for academic achievement. And that's the thing that we're trying to promote, is this notion of creating a culture of prevention in mental health, similar to what we do for physical health, so that when that child enters that classroom, they can concentrate on what the teacher is trying to get them to learn. And they're not anxious, they're not depressed, they're not triggered by the trauma and stressors they're seeing at home in their communities. So imagine if we created a system that allowed kids, and again, teachers should have access to those resources too, to be able to deal with and cope with those issues so they could be fully present in the school setting.
And I'm going to segue right into this, Travis. And again, I want to keep saying this. You're Chief Health Officer at Hazel Health, okay? And as such, okay, what you just said, okay, talk about how, put Hazel into that picture. I just want, because this we can actually make some of this happen. And this is what you think about all day, okay? And you work with Phyllis, knows that Phyllis is the absentee expert. Okay, she knows the end result of this, and we don't get it right. Go ahead, Travis. I'm going to swing back to Phyllis. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, I think the first two components of it, and to create that culture of prevention, you actually have to have access to services. And when it comes to mental health services, even though we tell kids, you need some help or, you're feeling stressed, we can identify that. Many districts across the country are still, unfortunately, facing wait times for access to care anywhere from 9 months to over a year. Programs like Gayles that provide a telehealth platform shortens that access to care window. For example, what we're seeing across our districts across the country is our average access to care and wait time to get it from when a student is identified as having a mental health need to when they are talking to a mental health professional is 2 to 3 weeks. And imagine if by extending that platform and making that available, we are identifying needs in kids, we're getting them linked to services, and when we're finding that having access to that telehealth platform is not only getting them in quicker, our early returns when we look at, for example, pre and post PHQ-9 and GAD-7 scores, we're seeing significant improvements in the overwhelming majority of our kids who participate in our therapeutic sessions, from particularly those who come in with severe symptoms. What we're finding is after an average of 6 to 7 sessions with our providers, those who present with those clinically significant symptoms are no longer expressing those severe symptoms. So imagine if we can increase access by increasing access, utilizing those different non-traditional methods such as telehealth. You can get kids services quicker, and what we're showing is that not only can we do it quicker, it's high-quality services that we're being able to provide. And this is the perfect pivot back to Phyllis, is we know that many kids don't come to school because they have unmet physical health and mental health needs. So imagine if you get them the services to address that, imagine the impact on absenteeism. And since that's not my area of expertise, I will defer to the absenteeism expert to talk about that impact.
Excellent segue. You should start doing a podcast. That was really good. I love that. Okay. Wow, that was impressive.
And I'll,
go ahead, Phil.
And I'll
please.
start where Travis left off too, because when we looked at these 5,000 plans, every every local district had to submit a plan to the state before they could get any of the federal COVID relief dollars, and the plan had to lay out how they were going to spend their money. And about a little more than a third of those districts said we want to bring in psychologists and mental health providers and social workers into our schools. The reality is, though, there's a big shortage of school psychologists, and many of those districts that plan to bring these people in have not been able to find the people they need.
Right.
That's where telehealth comes in, and telehealth can really amplify your efforts by having many psychologists available to kids. The other thing we saw was a more generalized effort to create a better, make school a safer, more welcoming place through creating what they call trauma-informed atmospheres where you try not to yell at kids and you try to keep things calm by putting social emotional learning curriculum into place, so that kids feel, they can express themselves, they can regulate their emotions. There's about a third of the districts are spending on that sort of training and curriculum, and that money is pretty much going toward what we think it's going to go to, because that's not like people who are to hire. So I would say there is, for years, because I've been in education policy and Travis has been in education for years, schools have been saying we need this mental health support. Teachers cannot tell whether someone is an angsty teenager or a bipolar kid. So you need a mental health support. And finally, with the pandemic, we're getting that recognition and we're bringing resources in. There's just not enough. And in terms of how that plays out for attendance, I mean, we tend to think of absenteeism as kids skipping school, but often it's about kids not feeling like they belong at school. They don't feel connected to people. They feel like that the work's too hard or too boring, and that the pandemic has really amplified that or exacerbated that because, kids who were connected to their teachers and their friends suddenly were sitting at home for a year to a year and a half and lost those connections. Kids who were in middle school come back as ninth graders in high school and they don't know anybody. So there's a real issue of trying to make school a safe and welcoming place for kids. And that's an issue. Attendance, if you look at attendance rates, they probably doubled in terms of the chronic absenteeism rates. That's kids missing 10% of the school year have doubled since before the pandemic. So there's some districts like Detroit had 70% of their kids missing nearly a month of school. So it's a real issue that we need to deal with. If we're going to get kids caught up, if we're going to get kids in a good place mentally, we're going to have to get them back to school.
And Phyllis, I have to ask you this, and I find this incredibly interesting. Okay, you're the associate director of Future Ed, but Future Ed isn't in an education school. It's in McCourt School of Public Policy. And sometimes we tend to separate education from public policy. But if education isn't right, okay, we're going to have some serious problems in society. Okay, and that's what public policy is about. And can you kind of link the two on that? If this continues like this, okay, what's going to happen? What not only just in education, but in society as a whole. I mean, we have to correct this. And I want to go back full circle before you do and just say that, a company like Hazel Health, they have these therapists, et cetera, that are ready to help. A school district in Beulah, North Dakota can't find a school psychologist. I use them just as an example. They're so rural.
Exactly.
Okay. Up here in Fort Kent, Maine, they can't find the people. They just aren't there. It's not that they're not trying. Okay. And again, just an example. But this has an impact later on. And Phyllis, just talk about that again from a school of public policy, the impact of these challenges of education.
Right. Well, we know, tying it to absenteeism, we know that kids who are absent are more likely to drop out. And we know that when kids drop out or when they don't move on from high school to college or some sort of career path, they make less money, they have worse health, they die younger. Education can be a way out of poverty, but without a good education, there's just a cycle of intergenerational poverty. All of these have impacts on American public policy, on how much money we put toward health care, how much money we put toward unemployment or job training. Schools can do that work for us if schools are funded properly and run properly and get the support they need. So education in this country is inextricably linked to the future of our country, even democracy, understanding how elections work, understanding the civil responsibilities, understanding the history of our country and why certain things are important, and also, I might add, understanding where things went wrong in the history of our country and how we need to atone for them.
I couldn't agree with you more on any of that. I mean, it's just amazing. So back to Travis. Travis, again, you were a school health official, okay, in Montgomery County, Maryland, okay, and I want to say this right. Things have changed. This is not only has the challenge gotten worse, but the number of people who can help us has lessened, okay, or at least their availability has lessened. And Travis, from your point of view as a, quote, former head of a school health system, okay, county school health system, okay, to now working as the chief health officer of Hazel, put the company in the position of helping out the situation. In other words, it's changed, okay, and we have to depend on companies like Hazel to make this to help make these kids healthier again. Just talk about that change and how important it is for school districts to understand this. They have got to find these people, and you guys have them available to them. Go ahead, Travis.
Sure. I think the first thing that's changed is that we now have shows like yours and the Surgeon General and the broader public talking about the mental health needs of children. There were significant needs before the pandemic hit, and the pandemic has highlighted and shown a light on and exacerbated those needs in many different ways. And what has come out of this is we have more people talking about it, and as Phyllis laid out, there's more resources that are being discussed and being made available to address. The challenge is now that all the attention is there, what hasn't changed, unfortunately, is the pipeline, as you laid out, Larry.
Yeah.
Is there is a shortage of providers to be able to provide in-person services in many districts. And whether it's a small district, as you described in Maine, I grew up in a small district in Southern Virginia where there aren't a ton of resources available in terms of human capital. And so what has changed, again, is this movement to recognize that we can't do things the same way that we used to before. And so there are new opportunities, such as Hazel Health, bringing in and utilizing telehealth and a telehealth platform to be able to serve as an extender of services and increase access for those communities that still are experiencing extreme shortages of providers, and the wait is going up as we continue to move forward. And what also needs to change with that, though, is in creating this space to provide these services, we also see that you can't just treat the child with their clinical symptoms. You also have to do your due diligence and looking at the whole child. And the approach we take at Hazel is saying, hey, yes, we are here to treat your symptoms that you're presenting with, but we know particularly for children, there's so many different factors that influences those symptoms. Do you have stable housing? Do you have something to eat? Are you in a safe neighborhood? Do you have stable transportation to be able to make it to your appointments? Is your parent or guardian in a job that has health insurance or paid leave to be able to take you to your appointments or help navigate the healthcare system to get the help you need based upon your different diagnoses that you have? And so we've got to do more in terms of creating a system that supports that, in terms of reimbursing for those services and understanding that all of those different factors will, again, influence that child's ability to be present in the classroom and to be able to live up to their full academic potential.
Well said, my friend. Yeah. And as Chief Health, go ahead, Phyllis, did you want to say something? I heard you.
No, I was just agreeing. Amen, saying amen to all of that.
Amen. You got that right. Amen. I'm telling you, it's just amazing. And I have to ask this, Travis, as you again, you're Chief Health Officer of Hazel Health. So it's your responsibility, if I may, to, quote, hire the therapists, hire the people who will perform the services. How is it working? When a school district says, well, I wish I could do this in person, okay, will the person over a Zoom meeting or whatever be able to get the same results? Okay, how do you train people? Are they being trained to do this? Give us a feeling of the results that you guys get from all this.
Sure.
It's a change. It's a change, and it's an important change. They have to feel confident. Good. Yeah.
It's a change and an evolution in practice. I mean, I know when I as a pediatrician in training, when I did my training, we didn't do virtual medicine. Everything was the old-fashioned way of in person. You come into the hospital, you come into the clinic. So it's an evolution in practice. And, as you mentioned, when I was a health department director, I remember we were trying to get some small grants to do some pilots in telehealth. And this was back in like 2018, 2019. And it wasn't as attractive, and so there wasn't a lot of funding out there. Fast forward to 2022, the dynamics have changed entirely. Where everyone is leveraging that process. So what we do, we have an extensive team, and our people team is phenomenal. and they work to recruit providers who understand our approach, that whole child approach that I referenced in terms of, yes, treating the child's clinical symptoms, but also looking at the full life spectrum of the child in terms of all of the different components that we know influence that child's ability to be healthy and whole. And so we look to attract providers who understand that, and that's part of their delivery of services. We also recognize that representation is important as well, and diversity is important. And so actually over 60% of our providers identify as people of color, and over 50% of our providers speak multiple languages.
Wow.
And so it's important to recruit bodies. Yes, we all need a large sample size of providers, but we also want to make sure that those providers represent the communities that we serve, because we know that can be extremely impactful for a child in their therapeutic a child and adult in their therapeutic process. But we also want to make sure that, and to your other point, when we do partner with districts, we work to recruit providers, even though they are providing a virtual service. We work to recruit providers who may live in that area or close by, because it's important that the provider understand and have a good understanding of the environment within which the children live, so that they can have a better working understanding of the types of pressures and struggles that the children face in their daily lives.
Just astounding. The cycle of it all. How one thing impacts, it's like a set of dominoes. You knock over one, okay, and they all fall. You got to be so careful with this. And Phyllis, I have to. By the way, Phyllis, is it Dr. Jordan?
No, just a master's degree. So
just a master, not just a. You're an expert, okay? I was just describing to make sure make sure that you were introduced properly there. I want to talk about something else, and this is something again you're an expert on. You've written about the attendance playbook for addressing chronic absenteeism, and school districts have to address that. They used to have the old truant officer, like in the R Gang comedies, go out and pick up the kids by the collar and bring them back to school. We all remember that in those old movies. That doesn't happen anymore, by the way, everybody. Okay, but absenteeism affects a lot of things in a school district, especially dollars coming in, if I may, besides the
that's
results.
True.
Just talk about why this is important in terms of correcting the absentee problem. The less absenteeism, the better off we are. Not just the kids, but the school district. Right.
Well, and we see ill effects of absenteeism as early as kindergarten. Kids who miss too much preschool and kindergarten are less likely to read by third grade. They're less likely to develop the kind of social skills, of sort of persistent social skills. I don't mean like playing with friends, but more like the ability to persist and work hard on things. A lot of that stuff is developed in preschool and kindergarten. So missing too much of that affects you down the road. By middle school, chronic absenteeism can be an indicator that a child will drop out. And by ninth grade, it's a better indicator than your grades. You can fail all your classes in ninth grade and you have a better chance of graduating than if you were chronically absent. So throughout your career, it's an indicator of academic success. And so often it's an indicator of where your head is, not just your mental health, but, how you feel about school, how you feel about yourself, and how connected you feel. So a lot of the attendance playbook has about 24 evidence-based solutions. The federal money that has come flowing to school districts to address learning loss calls for using evidence-based solutions. So we went through and said, well, what solutions have evidence? And there's quite a lot. I mean, it sort of starts at home. There's a really intensified effort to do what's called home visits, where you go to the home. You don't go there and say, like your truant officer, where's your kid? But you go and say, hi, you just want to get to know the family. You get a lay of the land. You realize, gosh, maybe the kid isn't eating or doesn't have his own bedroom, so he doesn't sleep well, or one woman who was a home visitor I spoke to said during the pandemic she would go and the parents were scared to send their kids to school. They were scared they were going to get COVID and die. I mean, that's a very natural human response. But you got to get those kids out the door and back to school at some point. So, that's a very simple approach. Then there's these sort of approaches where you're sending parents letters, just not judgy letters, but like, hey, your kid's missed 5 days of school so far this year. The average for his class is 2. It gets the parent thinking about what's going on. Maybe I should have a little better attendance. And then, as I mentioned, the sort of whole school efforts of creating a more welcoming environment through social emotional learning. Like, you know, even you see these videos of these teachers giving kids high fives and fist bumps and hugs at the door. Those sorts of things just make kids feel connected to school.
Yeah.
So, you know,
that's what school's about.
And then there's sort of like the first tier of kids, like for every kid. Then you have these kids who have problems, either mental health problems or just problems getting to school. And you need a more intensive approach there. You need to say, what's going on? Is it transportation? Are they not in a safe neighborhood, as Travis was saying? And maybe it's dangerous to walk to school, so maybe you need to get some school districts put like adults on every street corner on the path to school so that make the kids feel safer. Some do these things called walking school buses where you stop by every kid's house and like 10 kids walk to school together with a couple of adults. So, you know, the really simple things can improve attendance. And then you have your kids, sort of the tier 3 kids, the kids who really need a lot of support, who are going to need to talk to a mental health provider. They're pregnant, or they have a serious health issue. So they're sort of, you know, or housing is a big issue. Like if you don't, housing, one story I like to tell is about LeBron James. When he was in 4th grade, he missed 83 days of school. And it was because his family got evicted and they were moving around from different relatives' houses. And it was hard for him to get to school. Now, someone like LeBron James, the next year, a coach sort of noticed him and made sure he got to school and made sure they had good housing. But there's not always somebody looking out for kids. So to the extent that we can do more to look out for what kids need.
Yeah, I mean, and, you know, we got to watch out for everybody. And believe me, I am a huge LeBron James fan, okay? But, you know, there are less exceptional people that we have to take great care of. Okay, let me put it that way. And by the way, I am one of them. I'm not very good at basketball. Okay, but just me. I have to ask you, Phyllis, where, you know, we talked about the attendance playbook. Where is that? How do people find that?
You can go to www.futureed.org. And it's future-ed.org, and you'll find it there. Probably if you Google attendance playbook Future Ed, which is one word, Future ED, it'll pop up. We do that in partnership with Attendance Works, which is a nonprofit that focuses completely on attendance. We're broader, but we focus a lot. We work a lot with researchers too, sort of the intersection of research, policy, and
Good. We
practice.
need this, and we need. And you know, I have to say this, and you know, we do this all the time in medicine. We don't do it in education. We have facts, and a lot of times because we are a publicly run bureaucracy, okay, we don't do what we need to be, what the evidence tells us to do, and we have to change that. Okay, it's that simple. Okay, you know, and it's hard. I always say it's hard to get a brontosaurus to make a left turn. Okay, but we got to make sure we do that. Okay, because it's really, really important. That's. You know, and when I say that, you know, you look at a company like Hazel, that's exactly what's going on. They're making that brontosaurus make that left turn. Okay? It's time to make a change because the time is now. That's all just amazing.
Well,
okay?
and
you two
have
are wonderful.
telehealth.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Go ahead, Phil,
we have
please.
telehealth as one of our solutions,
It is.
one of our evidence-based solutions, that this is a way that we can get more kids more health. And when we wrote that, we're about to revise the attendance playbook, so I'm going to ask Travis if he has any new research. But we were focusing more on health things like asthma. Asthma is a huge reason that kids miss a lot of school. But it's the number one reason that kids miss school for illness is asthma. A lot of times, your kid gets a cold, he's out for a day or two, but a kid with asthma tends to be out for like a week. And then you have the issue with it's kind of like the issue with COVID. I once interviewed this woman, it was a grandmother caring for her grandson, and she said, I didn't want to send him to school because I was afraid he was going to have an asthma attack and die. And it was like, it's hard to argue with that person.
No, you can't argue with that. Don't argue with that.
No. Right, but her school had opened a clinic, and now she felt confident to send her child to school, her grandchild to school, because there was that clinic at school. And I'm sure, if there was some confidence that, her child was having an asthma attack and could talk to a telehealth person too, that would be something that would reassure parents as well.
And Phyllis, and Travis and Phyllis, that's really the key of this whole thing. When this, and I will use Hazel as the example, when they sign up for telehealth services, teletherapy, okay, it gives the parents and the teachers confidence in the system, and it makes the system work. And that key word is confidence. Okay, you get results, but you get confidence too. It's amazing. We have to go. I got to thank you both. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Phyllis, and to you, Travis. Hope
Thanks,
you have a great holiday. Okay. Travis,
thank you
there?
so much, and I hope you feel better. Yep.
I'm sure I will. I feel better after talking to you guys already. Got my mind off my stinky throat. Okay? I appreciate it, guys. Have a safe, wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll talk again. Thank you. I'll be in touch.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Take care. You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, everybody. Pardon my silly voice here today. I sound like Mickey Mouse. All right? Wait till Phyllis meets me, and Travis already knows me. Wait till Phyllis meets me when she hears what I actually sound like. Okay, she's Associate Director of Future Ed, which is the think tank at Georgetown University and McCourt School. This is interesting, of public policy. And go over to Future Ed or just Google the attendance playbook. This is interesting stuff. And if you want to start curing the problem, call Hazel Health. It's hazel.co. And Travis, okay, who's been on the show several times now, he's excellent, is the Chief Health Officer of that particular service, Hazel Health. Hazel Health at hazel.co. We'll archive the show at ace-ed.org, and everybody, please have a safe, happy Thanksgiving. Talk to you after.